Welcome. This is First Page Fridays, and I'm April Davila for Sit Right Here. Today we're going to look at somebody's first page. We're going to read it the way an agent or an editor at a publishing house might look at it, and then I'll share my thoughts on what's working, what could be better. I'll really go through it line by line like I would if I were working with a client's manuscript. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink myself down. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you would like to submit a first page to have it reviewed, there's a link below in the show notes. You can do that and we'll put you in the queue. All right, let's begin here. We have a title. It's called Odd Familiar. Morse code gibberish sounded through the winds as Sammy Park's short black heels tapped along the puddle-strewn sidewalk. This week sucked, she thought. I wonder what fresh fucking hell comes next. The answer was a slap upside the head from a passing gust that churned Sammy's long black hair into a cranky hydra, blotting out the sights of the street in a writhing mass of half-bleached strands. And if you take issue with any of that, you're probably not going to like what comes next. Anywho, seconds later, the winds fell back to regroup, and Sammy paused from her walk home to clear away her unruly locks, revealing an unflattering gray ensemble of clouds that cloaked the sky and smothered the last light of day. The city of Toronto groaned under a Bible story's worth of water that evening. A sea of blinding halogen headlights flowed through the streets, tearing past screaming neon signs. Chilling gusts prowled like transparent sharks eager to sink icy fangs into unsuspecting prey. In short, it was pretty damn awful, much like the Bible itself. Even the animal kingdom had shut itself into whatever crevices the city provided, and apart from a solitary feathered shadow perched on a nearby power line, Sammy had the run of the sidewalk. As she passed, the feathered shape glared down at her. A raven or a crow, maybe? Sammy wasn't quite sure. Nor did she give much of a fuck. They truly didn't matter to her. All right, so using the F word twice on the first page is a choice. It doesn't bother me, but you should know that there will be readers who will put the book down. That said, presumably this is a word that gets used throughout the book. So I always say if you're going to be using that word, throw it on the first page. Let people be offended and shut the book. It's not for them. The people who are like, yeah, that's my book, they will keep reading. But know that it is a choice. It's also worth noting our system takes away the carriage returns, so I'll put those back in as best I can as we're going. My best guesses, at least. Okay. Morse code gibberish sounded through the winds as Sammy Park's short black heels tapped along the puddle-strewn sidewalk. Now, I think I get what you're going for, but Morse code is it's long, short, long, short. Whereas short black heels tapping along a sidewalk is like click, 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 click. Unless she's going like step, 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 step. I don't know. Just this metaphor opens up more questions than I think you really want to open on the first line. So let's see here. I might just start with Sammy Park's short black heels tapped along the puddle-strewn sidewalk. This week sucked, she thought. And we're in her head, so you don't really need to tell us she thought it. This week sucked. Okay, so you're in third person here, Sammy Parks, and then you switch to first person. Oh, except that this is her asking herself. I wonder what fresh fucking hell comes next. Okay, so I get what you're trying to do. It's like you're trying to get into her head and let this be like the voice in her head. But it's really early in the story. You're only in the third sentence to be switching tense. So I think point of view. Yeah. So let's just see what it looks like. She wondered what fresh fucking hell comes next. And I don't know why this would be in quotes. If you're using it, just use it. Wondered. I put that wrong. Okay. She wondered what hell came next. And since we're past tense, the answer, and you don't necessarily need the was, a slap upside the head from a passing gust. Okay, she wondered what fresh fucking hell came. I think YouTube's gonna flag me for all this cursing. That's all right. This week sucked. She wondered what fresh fucking hell came next. The answer: a slap upside the head from a passing gust that turned Sammy's long black hair into a cranky hydra, blotting out the sights. Sadly, M dashes have come to be like a signal of AI. I just edit them out completely at this point. So I'm not saying you used AI for this, but when we put in M dashes at this point, it just reads as AI. So that's why I'm just going to take it out. Blotting out the sights of the street. Now, what are the sights of the street? I wonder. Blotting out and you mentioned this down here, right? The blinding halogen headlights. You can get that detail up here. Blotting out the blinding halogen headlights that were flowing past her as she walked. Were flowing. And I don't know that, so you've already said like her long black hair into a cranky hydra, blotting out, blotting is like, I think of blotting as like putting a substance on a wet substance to like blot it up, right? Like a paper towel blots. So the hair doesn't quite blot out what you're seeing. Maybe blocking, but blocking isn't quite the right word either. Blocking out the blinding halogen headlights that were streaming. I'm going to say streaming past her. And again, I'm putting words on the page for you. It's kind of rude, I know, but like I'm trying to show you by example of like using as much of your wording as I can to really bring the reader in here. They were streaming past her as she walked. Okay. And then this, and if you take issue with any of that, you're probably not going to like what comes next. I don't know why anyone would take any issue with that, except for the F word, which they either do or they don't, right? if they don't, they've stopped reading already. And then the anywho seconds later, it is very voicey, but it feels removed from the narration. It's so self-aware that it almost kind of loses the sense of being a story. Now, again, it's an artistic choice, and if you want to keep that in, by all means, that is your choice. I'm just sharing my thoughts on this. And I would take out the parts that like things like she thought, right? Because we already know she's thinking these things were in her head. We're on this journey with her, and things like anywho, you don't need them. Now, again, your story. If you decide to keep it, it's totally up to you. Seconds later, the winds fell back to regroup, and Sammy paused from her walk home to clear away her unruly. And instead of clear away, it's like not like she's going to get rid of her hair. Let's just say to tame her unruly locks. And you don't need an ellipsis here. Revealing an unflattering gray ensemble. Oh, okay. So when she tames her ruly locks, the way this reads is she revealing a gray ensemble that like somehow I'm suddenly seeing that she's dressed in an unflattering gray ensemble. But what you're actually talking about is how the blocked, okay, because you had this blocking out the sky ahead. Yeah. I don't know. I think I like the headlights, like really re-emphasize where she's walking down the street now. And then, then here have her look up to unruly locks, giving her, it wouldn't be her first glimpse. I was going to say giving her a glimpse of the unflattering gray clouds overhead, but it's not like it would be, it's not like she didn't know they were there. Well, let's giving her a fresh view of the unflattering. So to call clouds you're saying the gray ensemble that is cloaking the sky is unflattering gray. There's a lot of layers to that. Let's see here. Giving her a fresh view of the, how to say that? The simple, without overwriting it, you would just say of the gray clouds that cloaked the sky. Uh, so, of the gray clouds that cloaked the sky and smothered the last light of day. The city of Toronto groaned under a Bible's story's worth of water that evening. A sea of blinding halogen lights. And then you can call back to this since you've already introduced the blinding halogen lights. As cars tore past. So let's try this. As cars tore past. Sea of blinding halogen lights flowed through the streets. So the headlights, they're tearing past, screaming. So we want her to stay the subject here. How about what if we added a layer here? A car cut close to the curb and a spray of water came at her. Screaming neon lights reflected off the wet pavement. Chilling gusts prowled like transparent sharks, eager to sink icy fangs into unsuspecting prey. In short, it was pretty damn awful, much like the Bible itself. Even okay, so that's a fun callback to the Bible. So this paragraph stands really well, like on its own. Bible story's worth of water, pretty damn awful, much like the Bible itself. Even the animal kingdom had shut itself into whatever crevices the city provided. Again, this is kind of awkward because like a kingdom doesn't fall into crevices. Individual animals in every kingdom can then fall into crevices. So even the animals, even the animal kingdom, even the animals. And there's an opportunity here to tell us what animals, right? Because if you're in the city of Toronto, you're not talking about jellyfish. You're not talking about grizzly bears, presumably. I actually don't know. Grizzly bears live near Toronto. So let's be specific. If you're in a city, even the squirrels, and again, I don't know Toronto, but I'm going to make some guesses. Squirrels, rats, and pigeons. Pigeons had shut themselves away. Give us some details. Had shut themselves into whatever crevices the city provided for shelter. Apart from a solitary feathered shadow, and I would say all except a solitary feathered shadow perched on a nearby power line. Okay, so I get what you're trying to do here. Let's see here. And apart, hold on, let's do a redo there. Oops, redo. Provided shelter. Okay. Whatever crevices the city provided shelter. Into whatever crevices the city provided as shelter. For shelter. And apart from a solitary so you're saying, and apart from this one shadow, Sammy had the run of the sidewalk. If we're going to make it an and, then let's just make it an and. And apart from one, and let's say one, just to emphasize, one solitary feathered shadow perched on a nearby power line, Sammy had the run of the sidewalk. Now, if it were a clear day, would there be squirrels, rats, and pigeons? Like, would the animal kingdom be in her way on the sidewalk? I don't know. I've never been to Toronto, but the big cities I've been to, like the sidewalks aren't crowded with animals. So I think what you're trying to say is that like there aren't any other people around. Let's see here. Even the squirrels, okay. And apart from one solid, Sammy, I would just say she was it's a little awkward. So I think it's the run of the sidewalk that's getting me here. What if we just said she was alone on the sidewalk? But it's kind of the same issue. Apart from one solitary feathered shadow perched on a nearby power line, Sammy Yeah. I'm not sure where to put this. So what we're trying to say is there's no one else out there, right? There's no other people. And so maybe instead of the squirrels, like maybe you just talk about the people, right? The other residents of the city had long since tucked themselves away, seeking shelter from the storm. And so apart, and then we could say, so apart from one solitary feathered shadow perched on a nearby power line, Sammy had in front of the sidewalk. As she passed, the feathered shape glared down at her. A raven or a crow, maybe. I can never, again, with the M dashes, I got to do that. And also, I can never tell the difference between ravens and crows, so I feel her. But as the author, as the person who's telling this story, it's going to be more compelling if you can tell us which one it is. Like, just decide and have her know. You don't have to explain how she knows, but ravens tend to be more spooky, right? Crows tend to be more meddlesome. I'm thinking just symbolically in literature. So decide which one you want it to be. Or again, it's a voice thing. Like Sammy wasn't quite sure. If she's not quite sure, what we want to get to is why does she notice and why does it matter that they're the only two left on the sidewalk? If she doesn't give much of a fuck and it truly doesn't matter to her, why are we even calling it out? Why mention it, right? So my suggestion is make it matter. Otherwise, just cut it and get to whatever comes next. As she passed, the feathered shape glared down at her. Okay, so let's start back at the beginning here. Sammy Park's short black heels tapped along the puddle-strewn sidewalk. This week sucked. She wondered what fresh fucking hell came next. And that actually doesn't need to be a question. The answer, a slap upside the head from a passing gust that churned Sammy's long black hair into a cranky hydra, blocking out the blinding halogen lights that were streaming past her as she walked. Seconds, and you might even streaming past her and reflecting off the wet sidewalk. Maybe you could get another wet detail in there. Seconds later, the winds fell back to regroup, and Sammy paused from her walk home to tame her unruly locks, giving her a fresh view of the gray clouds that cloaked the sky and smothered the last light of day. The city of Toronto groaned under a Bible story's worth of water that evening. A car cut close to the curb, and a spray of water came at her. Screaming neon signs reflected off the wet pavement. Chilling gusts prowled like transparent sharks eager to sink icy fangs into unsuspecting prey. In short, it was pretty damn awful, much like the Bible itself. The other residents of the city had long since tucked themselves away, seeking shelter from the storm, not the story. So apart from one solitary feathered shadow perched on a nearby power line, Sammy had the run of the sidewalk. As she passed, the feathered shape glared down at her. A raven or a crow, maybe? Sammy wasn't quite sure, nor did she give much of a fuck. Truly didn't matter to her. Okay, so again, I'm not going to presume to know what comes next in your story, but if it really doesn't matter to her, then just cut this and get to the parts that do matter. And if it does matter, then tell us why. Is she superstitious? Why does she even notice that there's a raven or maybe a crow there? Does it mean anything to her? And again, if it doesn't, she probably wouldn't even notice. So just cut it. Get to the next part. There's a lot going on here. It's a great character. She has a wonderful voice. Or I should say the narrator has a wonderful voice. It's very distinct. It will turn off some readers. As long as you're okay with that, carry forth. I find it intriguing. I don't mind an F word. And so dropping it on the first page is definitely a good little heads up, hey, here's what's coming. And that this is a distinct kind of character. I would be on board. I would love for there to be some sort of question posed right now. She's walking home. I don't have any reason to think she won't get there. So there's not a lot at stake. But I wonder if you could hint at what's at stake. What is it that this character wants in life? Why don't they have it? What are they trying to do to get it? What else has made this week suck rather than just walking home in the rain? Get to that stuff as soon as you can. Maybe even hint. I think down here, if the raven or the crow doesn't matter, this would be the place to drop into what is this story about? Start to draw the reader in with the bigger questions that you're going to answer throughout the story. I hope this was helpful. Thank you, dear writer, for sharing your pages with us or your page with us. And if this was not your page and you would like to send yours in, please check out the link below in the show notes. Click there, send us your page. We'll put it in the queue, and I will see you one of these Fridays. All right. Happy Friday. Take care, everybody.